If I could have your attention in the media center, we're going to continue on with our media availability today. We've got we'll get the audio here. We got a really special media availability today as we are paying tribute and celebrating 20 years of the NASCAR Drive for Diversity Driver Development Program and Pit Crew Development Program here at Darlington Raceway, with Nick Sanchez running the #2 20th anniversary throwback paint scheme for Rev Racing. On stage here joining us talking about this incredible program, we have Brandon Thompson, the NASCAR Vice President, Diversity and Inclusion, Max Siegel, the owner of Rev Racing, and then Nick Sanchez, driver of the #2 and Chevrolet. So I want to start off asking each one of these gentlemen here, and we'll start with you, Brandon, and work our way down. What does this program mean to you?
Wow, that's a really deep question, man. No, it means evolution. It means progress. It means what we're, witnessing today, frankly, right? So, us being able to come back to Darlington, celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Drive for Diversity program with the driver and Nick Sanchez, who's sitting on the pole. In the first paint scheme that Max ever ran at Revolution Racing, as someone who has come through the entire ladder of the program, talking about Nick. And so I think it's that. I think it's looking back and understanding, which a lot of folks in here will remember back to when the program came under a lot of scrutiny for not having produced a driver and not having produced anything, to now look at the number of pit crew members that we have, the number of drivers and how they're contributing. Not only at the top level of the sport, but the pipeline that's building. So I would say it means progress. I would say it means evolution, and I would say it means a good bit of payoff. Nick,
what's it mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot, right? I still say this is probably a really good reason why I'm here. It's because of this program, and I'm not the only example. It's just an opportunity to drive at some of the highest levels in NASCAR, and Rev and the NASCAR D4D program gave me that opportunity. And like Brandon was saying, it's not just me. Raja. There's so many other drivers in the national level and the Cup level, pit crew members. You walk down pit road. You can't go to a single pit box without seeing a D4D alumni. So I think that's really important. And, I think this paint scheme just is a big thank you to NASCAR and Max for all they've done.
Yeah, Max, it's interesting that this weekend we're celebrating the grassroots of our sport and looking what you're doing with Rev Racing and how involved you are at the grassroots level all the way on up. How special is it to come here to Darlington to pay tribute with this paint scheme?
It's incredibly special. Speaking of the pipeline, I want to acknowledge all the other Rev Racing drivers showing their commitment to development and being here to support their teammates. But I say it with my wife all the time. There were opportunities that we didn't even dream that were available to us. There were people that invested in us professionally. When I took a look at what was happening in the landscape and being able to partner with NASCAR, we said, if we don't do it, who will? And so, to be on this journey for the last 16 years with NASCAR and Chevrolet and our sponsors' unwavering commitment, to see Kyle, Daniel, Bubba, Nick, Pit Road, I can't say enough. It reminds me when I get up in the morning why we do it.
That's awesome. We're going to open the floor for questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone to you. We're going to start with Jacob and then go to Steve.
Jacob Seelman, Raceface Digital. I've got one for each of you. I'll start with Brandon. You were appointed to your current position, I think, 4 years ago now, and even before that, as the director of the touring series, had been able to, see a lot of what Rev was doing from that position as well. What have you been able to do, or have you been able to deepen kind of seeing that evolution in the role you're in now?
Yeah, well, I think it's deepening our relationship, right, with Max and that partnership, continuing to do the things. Jordan Leatherman, who's at the back of the room, leads that effort for us on a day-to-day basis, along with Booker from the Rev side, and it's they're in constant contact weekly, finding out what's going on with the drivers, updates and these types of things, right? It's about continuing to evolve the program. We understand that that we now have Raja, who's come through and kind of followed in familiar steps, at least of William Byron, having come from iRacing, right? So it's continuing to look and understand the landscape and how it's evolving as well, and how we can continue to evolve how we're going about recruiting, how we're going about developing the drivers. And I would say really all those same things and principles go towards the pit crew program as well. Understanding the success that we've had with their program, it does have to, it kind of takes on a different form in terms of what evolution looks like, but it's going to single lug cars and sort of adapting to some of those types of things. But I think it's really about just continuing to be nimble, but also continuing to be effective.
Max, I can't even begin to put 16 years into the form of a question, but I'll try in the sense of what's been the most special part of this journey for you, and could you have ever imagined when they came to you in 2008 that you'd be sitting here with an ARCA championship with Nick, a truck team? I mean, I don't know that a lot of people saw the national footprint that you guys were going to have at the beginning.
Absolutely not. I want to brag that Brandon is a Rev alumni too. So we've been committed to really the development of talent across the industry. I think it's a testament to an unwavering commitment from the sport, the France family, the entire leadership of NASCAR. This is not easy. We evolve. We hold each other accountable. There are as many bad days as there are good days. And so for me, the reward and the payoff is to see all of our graduates that come through the program. They're either successful as athletes, they are either working in the industry as professionals. Our goal is to have people have a lifelong connection to the sport that we all love. No, we didn't imagine it. We dreamed one day that we would be able to provide this opportunity, but it makes me really incredibly proud to see how all of our alumni have gone and have been change agents in the industry.
Nick, I'm going to ignore the fact that you have to drop to the back for the race tonight. That guy sitting next to you has given you just about every national stage opportunity that you've ever had. Rev is pretty much the only team you've ever known since the time you hopped in a Legends car years ago. What has it been like for you to really be a part of this entire journey and kind of evolve with them through your career so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, right? Max is, I say he's part of my family. He probably says I'm part of his family, and that's how we've had a relationship. And like you said, I started with him when I was 15 in a Legend car, and I'm 22 now in the Truck Series. So I've moved up to every different series with them, with Rev Racing, and I think that's super important. And it shows the commitment Max and NASCAR and our partners have to development, right? They've allowed me to do that, and there's been tough times. I get it, but I think most of my success is due to Max and everything he's done for me. So, yeah, hopefully it paves the way for many other drivers in my footsteps to start at the youth level in Legend cars and move all the way to Truck Series and beyond. So, yeah, I think it's all due to Max.
Go next to Deb, then the Lee.
Deb Williams, Auto Week. This can be for Brandon and Max. Talk about Nick starting in Legends cars. How young do you like to get people into the program, and how has your selection of the people in the program evolved over the 20 years?
So I'll start and kick it to Brandon. One of the things that we enjoy about our partnership with NASCAR is that we're constantly evolving. We're chasing excellence and evolution and holding each other accountable. I will tell you that we did a lot more promoting and marketing of the program to get people interested at the very beginning. Then we took a look, on an annual basis. What are we doing right or wrong as an organization? How do we get better? How do we support our drivers? And so for me, it starts by casting a very wide net, developing relationships across the entire industry. When we go to get recommendations in our selection process and our resume review, we have complete total engagement, I'd say, across the entire industry, which has been great because we all feel good about the talent that comes out of that evaluation process. When we first started, we had a different model, and then we said, we wanted to go to the academy-style training and be able to bring in our participants at a young age, be inspired by the Nick Sanchez's within the organization, but also see a pathway without having to leave Rev Racing to develop and grow. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but these guys are constantly pushing us to get better at that.
Yeah, well, certainly. But I think, Deb, the thing is that we have kind of found a mechanism within the combine that continues to push through. In fact, we even expanded the combine model a bit to include the, the pit crew members. What I would say is that what I'm encouraged by is, there are literal NASCAR Hall of Famers who are now a part of that selection committee for those who go to, who get invited and selected to the combine. And not only are they on the committee, like we get ballots from them, right? And so I can think back to the first combine I went to, probably in 2000, would have been 6 at South Boston. Some of those same tracks we have gone back to, revisited those types of things, but the process and the folks who were in the room and those types of things has certainly evolved a great deal. And to Max's point about evolution, I think that's really what it's about. So there's nothing like being able to see drivers perform on the racetrack to be able to make that evaluation. But I think the people who are opining, if you will, in benchmarking, right, who we're able to benchmark against, has certainly evolved, and that has certainly been reflected, I think, in the talent that you've seen come through the program over that handful plus of years.
Do you have any type of time limit for people? I know Nick was in Legends. You've had Isabella Robusto in from like Bandoleros on up. Do you have a time limit as far as anybody's development?
There is. The program caps out from an age perspective around age 22. And so, there's you've got all you can between those years. And obviously, Nick having evolved out of the technical Drive for Diversity program, obviously into the national series with Max and Rev is something completely different. But he did it the perfect way, in that he aged right. He got in at the right time and then aged out at the right time, and then had a place to go.
Go next to Lee.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and CatchFence.com. Curious, you guys mentioned pit crews, and I would almost venture to say that it's every bit as competitive there on pit road right now as it is behind the wheel, and even so much so that the teams are going to combines and recruiting on their own. But I'm curious, is there a way, or recently have you looked at stepping that end of it up because of the need to bring top-of-the-line athletes into the sport?
Yeah, it's funny. I tease Phil Horton all the time because we would get in arguments about the fact that he needed to go out to the universities and recruit athletes. But to your point, Brandon and I have been talking over the last couple of months. What does the next, what does the next iteration of the pit crew program look like? Again, we initially had to entice and encourage and sell people on being involved in the program. Then we hit a wave where we got great talent, we're really good feeders to the other teams, and now we know it's time to go to the next level. So we do have every intention to step that program up, address what the needs are right now, but not forgetting the fact that a lot of people who come into sport, they need NASCAR 101, don't even understand the sport. So to be able to, touch on both of those ends, entry level, and then step it up in a competitive way, we're having those discussions right now.
And
I would, Lee, if I would add to that. I think the pit crew program is a great example, though, of like when you're forced to evolve. I think to Max's point, we were at one point having to try to recruit and convince people to come. Over the past, again, handful plus of years, we've been able to. People are coming to us, but we've also now have Drive for Diversity pit crew alum who are behind other starters, on the team, and so it's almost been a positive force thing where it's we've got almost a logjam, right, in some cases. And so, having to figure out different ways and different mechanisms by which, and I think the team's doing it, to be honest, is really where we would have, if you talk about dreams and wishes, someone was talking about we would like the teams to embrace this more and do more of that on their own as well. So it's not a bad thing at all. And wherever we end up with that, with those things continue to go on at the team level, we're certainly going to support that.
And who's on the short list female-wise as far as the next female drivers coming?
Lainey Bice and Cassidy. standing right over there. And I mean, we know about Haley's success, right? And we know that we have drivers, Tony and Amber, all in the ARCA series, and so that pipeline again. And that's when I mentioned that earlier. I think when you look, whether Bubba and Daniel in particular being Black and Hispanic drivers. The representation and the amount of like what that has meant for other people coming through the program over the years has been huge. Has been no different for women, right? And sort of the Danica effect that we all kind of talk about. It will not be long. I think we're all confident that will happen, and we've got a ton of talent in the program.
And Regina.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking at Regina right there. Yeah, Regina.
Her shirt actually made her blend in instead of standing out.
Go next to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Max, in this conversation just about like pit crew members and the next iteration where they can come from, I'm curious with your role with the USATF. Obviously, it's an Olympic year. There's a lot of great athletes that, maybe at some point their careers will end. There's not really as much of a pro league as in the U.S. compared to Europe. I'm curious, is there a pathway that at some point we will start to see maybe former Olympic athletes coming over, or is that something that you even had conversations with?
Yes, it's totally. And Brandon and I talked about that. He's smiling. It's interesting because we believe that run, jumping, and throwing is the sport. It's the foundation of every sport, right? And so to see some of the most amazing athletes compete at the highest level, we've been testing that concept. We've been bringing a lot of the Olympians to some of the races and to the track and some of the training and over to the shop. But I do see a renewed interest, in the sport, and I totally see really high-level Olympic athletes being involved on the pit crew side as well.
What's the reaction like to see what were the ones that you brought over and looked at the training? Because although you talk about the foundations, there's still, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's this mutual appreciation for what it really takes to execute at the highest level, right? So before they come to shop, it's like, okay, are these really athletes? They get there and like they're really athletes, and vice versa, And so for me, I've seen, just such a positive reaction and such an interest in coaches and athletes and getting involved in many ways.
Do we have any additional questions from the room? We're going to go back to Pete, then to Jacob.
Hey there, Pete Iacobelli with the Associated Press. For Max, for Brandon, in all levels of society, we're asking, is diversity happening soon enough? We're talking 20 years now, should there be more visible diversity in NASCAR? And do you think perhaps that the changes are coming exponentially going forward, that maybe 5 years from now, we'll see a much more diverse garage out there?
Great question. Here's how I answer that. Is it fast enough? I don't know what the timeline for that should be or what it is. What I would say is that without the Drive for Diversity program having been founded 20 years ago, we would not have had the moment that we had in 2020 because there would have been no Bubba, right? And so I think that when just that simple math, if you will, I think speaks to it to kind of your point. So I don't know, Max, do you have any?
Well, I think you have to look across the entire sport, and there are opportunities for professionals, there are opportunities in the teams, there are opportunities on the field of play. If you just look statistically at the spots that are available, people, when we look at it that way, I tell people all the time, this program is helping the barrier to entry, support from a cost perspective, but just sheer statistics with talent being able to drive at the highest level requires a special human being. I think all of us would like to see progress faster. We all know that there's a lot of work to do, but I'll tell you, having been involved for 16 years, it's a testament to the leadership of the sport and the teams right now. I see a lot of momentum that has picked up over the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years.
You talk about the exponential growth, and one of the things I said after Bubba won at Talladega was 60 some odd years between he and Wendell Scott. It wouldn't be another 60, and that's certainly been proven a few times over, especially this year. So,
Jacob?
Max, I've gotten to see a lot of your drivers come up through the short track ranks and really seen you work with a lot of them over the years as well. What's more rewarding for you in this whole process? Seeing the drivers that you get to work with grow as racers, or I think we've seen so many of them grow as much as people, even more so?
Yeah, I'd say the latter. It is. We can celebrate, the most high-profile success stories in the crew and behind the wheel. But I'm very proud of the contribution that our participants, our graduates make to the industry, and just seeing them as human beings. And to see all of our graduates even come back and pour back into, those that are in the program right now speaks a lot about their character, their commitment, how much they care about, the individuals, and really being able to mentor them. But for me, the personal development is way more rewarding than getting a pole.
Any additional questions? Well, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to join us. And again, Max, thank you for paying tribute to 20 years of Drive for Diversity on the truck this week. And good luck tonight, Nick. And we'll see you later.
Regina serving, everybody. Make sure.
All right, there's the checkered flag. Great job, driver.